My hands felt cold, resting on the examination paper, colder than the sterile room itself. I was Vivian Sterling, a 70-year-old woman who had given 45 years of her life to a kind of love I now knew was counterfeit. All I expected that Tuesday was a routine checkup with my trusted physician, Dr. David Ellington. He checked my blood pressure, his hands slightly trembling, which was very unlike the firm, steady man I had known for 20 years. His gaze kept darting from my face to the closed door, a dance of nervousness that set off a tiny alarm bell deep in my spirit. "Everything looks perfect, Mistress Sterling," he said, his voice a tight wire. "Your blood work is excellent. Your heart is strong. You have many good years ahead of you, by the grace of God." He emphasized the word perfect too strongly, almost like a warning. I smiled, relieved, and reached for my purse on the counter, ready to go home to Terence, my adopted son, and his wife Monique. They had been so insistent that I go to this appointment. As I turned my back for a second, I felt his presence right behind me. A folded piece of paper, smaller than a business card, was discreetly slipped into the bottom lining of my large, worn leather bag. He placed it so quickly, so deliberately, that I almost did not notice the soft brush of his fingers. "Take care, Vivian," he whispered, his eyes finally locking with mine, and in them I saw not a doctor's professional calm, but pure, unadulterated fear. "And remember what the good book says. Family is not always blood, and blood is not always kin." His cryptic warning shook me to the core, and I left the office with my knees weak beneath my fashionable church dress. I knew Dr. Ellington was a serious, spiritual man. He would never joke about family, not with me. Why the secret message? Why the frantic warning? I chose not to read the note in the cab. The driver was too chatty, and the city traffic of Atlanta, Georgia was too loud. I needed the quiet sanctuary of my old suburban home to process whatever bomb Dr. Ellington had just handed me. "Hello, everyone. Before we continue, tell us where you are watching from. It keeps our stories alive." The silence when I walked through the door was immediate and jarring. Terence, Monique, and my granddaughter Jasmine were huddled in the living room, talking in hushed, urgent tones. They snapped to attention when I appeared, their faces masks of strained politeness. Monique quickly shoved a stack of legal-looking papers behind her back. The movement was too fast, too unnatural to be anything but concealment. I kept my face soft, my tone light. "How was the doctor, Mama?" Terence asked, but his usual easy smile did not reach the anxious strain in his eyes. "Everything is fine, son. Dr. Ellington says I am in perfect health." I watched as a flicker of intense disappointment crossed Monique's face before she could suppress it. They looked at each other, a silent, dark communication passing between them that excluded me entirely. Terence's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly, and Monique's jaw tightened. They were hoping for bad news. They were hoping I was sick. "That is wonderful, Grandma," Jasmine chirped, but her voice was unsettlingly cold, like ice scraping glass. "It means you will be around to enjoy your lovely house for many more years." I retreated to my room, the pleasant warmth of the afternoon sun feeling suddenly chilly on my skin. The tension in the house was so thick, I felt I could cut it with my grandmother's silver butter knife. Something was terribly wrong, and the doctor's note was the key. My hands shook, but not from age. They shook from the sudden, sharp premonition of danger. I pulled the small, crumpled piece of paper from my purse and unfolded it carefully, smoothing the creases with my thumb. The words were not written in a doctor's neat script. They were hastily printed in block letters, dark and final. "Mistress Sterling, your family visited me yesterday. Monique asked for certification of mental incompetence. They want to commit you to a nursing home. They asked about your assets. Do not go home. Run." My world did not crumble. It shattered, the pieces falling away one by one like shattered glass. Terence, the boy I had adopted at 2 years old and raised with every drop of sacrificial love I possessed. Monique, the daughter-in-law I had welcomed into my heart and home. Jasmine, my beautiful granddaughter, my adoration. They were not disappointed because I was well. They were furious because the doctor had not collaborated with their monstrous plan to bury me alive and steal my legacy. This was not about love. It was about money and malice. I lay awake that entire, endless night, paralyzed by the weight of betrayal. Every floorboard creak, every whispered sound from the hall made me jump. I listened, not to the familiar sounds of a happy home, but to the cold, calculating movements of a conspiracy. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard their voices low, but amplified by the silence of the night. I slipped out of my sheets and crept to my bedroom door, my heart drumming a frantic beat against my ribs. "The damn doctor would not sign the papers," Monique hissed from the kitchen, her voice sharp with irritation. "I told him the old woman is losing it, leaving the stove on, forgetting our names. But he kept insisting she was fine." Terrence's voice was softer, but devoid of compassion. "Relax, baby. We will find another doctor, one who needs a new boat, someone who will sign the papers we need to get the deed to this house and her savings." "But what about now?" Jasmine cut in, her tone impatient. "I need that college money now, not in 5 years when she finally, mercifully, gives up the ghost. I have a spot booked at NYU, and I cannot lose it. Ugh. The house is worth almost $500,000, and with her little pension and savings, we could live like kings until she is finally gone." Monique's voice was like frozen metal, emotionless and sharp. I leaned my shoulder against the cold plaster of the wall, breathing through my mouth to stay silent. Terrence lightly scolded his daughter. "Jasmine, do not talk like that, but your point is valid. I did not marry your mother to spend my inheritance taking care of a senile old woman. Our money." That phrase echoed in the dark space around me. All the sacrifices, all the long years of double shifts that my late husband and I worked to build this comfortable life, they saw it all as their money, simply delayed. "Tomorrow, I am talking to a lawyer," Terrence continued, sounding determined. "I will ask if we can have her declared legally incompetent without a doctor's signature. There has to be a legal loophole." Monique added her cruel twist to the plan. "And if that does not work, we can always make her life unbearable. We will cut the cable, stop cooking for her, treat her like the burden she is until she signs herself into that home." Even Jasmine offered a suggestion, though she pretended to be reluctant. "Mom, do not be so cruel. But the truth is, I am tired of pretending to love her. She is always underfoot, asking too many questions, demanding to know why we are out so late. She is insufferable." My legs were shaking, threatening to give way beneath me. The adoption, the unconditional love, the years of trying to be the perfect mother, the perfect grandmother. All of it had been a performance to them, a patience test they had finally failed. "Remember my 15th birthday?" Jasmine hissed, the resentment thick in her tone. "She bought me that hideous red dress and made me wear it to the party. All my friends laughed at me. I swore that day I would get her back." Monique laughed, a brittle, unpleasant sound. "And what bothers me the most is her constant bragging about what a saintly mother she was. She adopted you, Terrence, because she could not have her own kids. She did not save you. She used you to fill her lonely life." Terrence barely defended me. He merely sounded tired. "Enough, you two. In a week, I will talk to her. I will tell her we found a very nice assisted living facility. And if she refuses, we initiate Plan B." "What is Plan B?" Jasmine whispered, her voice excited. Terrence's answer hit me like a physical blow. "We make her really lose her mind. We switch her medications. We hide her things. We gaslight her. In a month, any doctor will certify she is mentally ill, and we can move her out." The horror was paralyzing. Not only were they plotting financial theft and emotional destruction, but they were planning to shatter my sanity. They wanted to turn me into the frail, confused woman they already claimed I was. "Perfect," Monique exclaimed, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Once she is committed, we access everything, sell the house, collect the pension, and live our lives without this burden." They laughed, a quiet, sinister trio of cackles, sharing a dark joke about my destruction. My breath caught in my throat. My heart had broken hours ago when I read the note, but now my blind faith in the sanctity of family, my very foundation, was utterly destroyed. I crept back to my room, silent as a ghost. I was not going to run like a scared victim. Dr. Ellington was right. I had to run, but my escape would be strategic, calculated. They had underestimated the elderly woman they called senile. I spent the rest of the night planning. I took out my smallest suitcase and packed only the essentials: important documents, my purse, my prescription bottles, and, most crucially, a small, worn leather notebook. In that little notebook were the details of the secret I had kept from them for 10 years, the inheritance from my late husband, Elijah. It was a multi-million-dollar safety net I never told anyone about, just in case. Before I left, I activated my smartphone's voice recorder. I slipped out of my room and walked deliberately toward the kitchen, pretending I had forgotten a glass of water. As I passed Terrence and Monique's bedroom, I paused, letting the microphone capture their morning whispers. "Do you think she suspects anything?" Monique asked, worry creeping into her tone. "Impossible," Terrence scoffed. "She is too old and trusting. Besides, what can she do? She has nowhere to go. She has no money of her own." "Not really. We are all she has. She is completely dependent on us." "Pathetic," Monique added with contempt, sealing their fate. I had enough. I turned off the recorder, the proof safely secured. I left a small note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to run errands. Back later. Vivian." It was a lie they would believe, because the idea of the senile old woman launching a strategic escape was beyond their greedy, limited imaginations. I took a cab straight to a downtown bank. I withdrew a large amount of cash, feeling the eyes of the young teller on me. Then, I hailed another cab to the most elegant, discreet hotel in the city, the Grand Imperial. I checked into a suite on the top floor. As the heavy door of the suite closed behind me, I felt a terrifying mix of pain and power. For the first time in decades, I was making decisions only for myself. The weight of 45 years of false love had been lifted, leaving me light and dangerous. I sat down and made a list of 3 non-negotiable steps. 1. Contact my overseas financial advisors. 2. Hire the best, most ruthless lawyer in Atlanta. 3. Find a private investigator to document every single one of their lies. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Terrence. "Mom, where are you? It is 2 o'clock. You have not come back." His voice was a blend of irritation and forced concern. "I am fine, son," I replied, my voice steady and surprisingly calm. I decided to take a day for myself. It has been a long time since I did that. "A day for yourself? What does that mean?" "You always tell us where you are, Mama. We have a right to know." The panic in his tone was delicious. He was losing control. "You know what, Terrence?" I said, letting the years of bottled-up wisdom flow out. "I am 70 years old. I think I am old enough to decide where to go and what to do without checking in with my adult children." I hung up and immediately powered off my phone. The war had officially begun, and I was holding all the secret weapons. The next day, I hired attorney Marcus King, the most prestigious legal mind in Atlanta. He was a man in his 50s, known for his relentless dedication and his sharp, clear eyes. He received me personally when I mentioned the size of the legal retainer I was prepared to pay for his undivided attention. I laid out the entire conspiracy in his sleek, glass-walled office. I told him about the doctor's note, the whispered plans to have me committed, the scheme to switch my medication, and the open contempt I had overheard. "I need complete protection, Mr. King," I explained, my voice level and controlled. "My family, my son, is trying to have me declared incompetent to seize my assets. But I have proof." I played the secret recordings I made as I left the house. The lawyer listened, leaning forward, his expression growing more intensely serious with every cruel word from Terrence and Monique. The room fell silent as the recording finished. "Mr. Sterling, this is beyond serious," he said finally, taking off his reading glasses. "What your family is plotting constitutes elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and potentially identity theft. We can and should prosecute them criminally." "That is exactly what I want," I confirmed, not blinking. "But I need this done strategically. I want them to pay, and I want the lesson to be so painful that it changes their lives forever." Mr. King's lips curved into a slow, professional smile. I believe we will work very well together, Vivian. You are not simply a victim, you are a woman ready for war. I will assign my best team to your case, but first, I need you to tell me absolutely everything. Oh, I recounted my life. Adopting Terrence, the good years with my late husband, the sacrifices, and the isolation that followed. Then, I revealed the secret weapon I had carried for a decade. When Elijah passed away, he left me more than just memories. I told him, producing the small worn notebook. He left me with an inheritance I never told anyone about. I kept it hidden to ensure Terrence loved me for me, not my money. Enter. And what exactly are these resources? Mr. King asked, his pen poised over his legal pad. $2.2 million in an offshore account, plus 3 foreign investment properties worth another $1.5 million, I stated calmly. Mr. King stopped writing and looked up at me with profound, renewed respect. Mistress Sterling, you are a very powerful woman who has been profoundly underestimated by her family. We are going to use that power and that secrecy to deliver the lesson of their lives. For the first time since reading the note, I felt a genuine flicker of peace. The war was on, and I had the best general and the biggest arsenal. I now had a team to fight for my dignity. That night, back in my luxurious hotel suite, I cautiously turned my phone back on. The onslaught began instantly. 37 missed calls from Terrence, 15 from Monique, and a dozen panic texts from Jasmine. The texts ranged from desperate pleas to thinly veiled threats. Mom, please answer. We are worried sick. If you do not reply, we will call the police. Grandma, Dad says you are making a huge mistake, and you are going to get yourself into trouble. I replied only to Terrence, keeping my tone perfectly flat. I am fine. Do not worry. I will be back when I am ready. His immediate response was a cascade of manipulative concern. Mom, this is not normal. You need to come home now. Monique is making your favorite dinner. His favorite dinner, as if I did not know Monique had never cooked anything special for me in her life. It was another calculated, transparent lie. The next morning, Mr. King called with the first report from his private investigator. Mistress Sterling, my investigator has been working fast. He has uncovered some deeply disturbing facts. Tell me everything, I said, bracing myself. Your daughter-in-law, Monique, has been using your personal information to apply for and use credit cards in your name for the last 6 months. She has 5 unauthorized cards with an accumulated debt of $43,000. My gasp was involuntary, a sharp intake of breath. $43,000? Where? Luxury shopping, expensive restaurants, even a week-long trip to the Florida Keys last month, the lawyer revealed. They told you they were visiting Monique's sick mother, but the evidence shows they were vacationing with your stolen money. The memory of Monique's fake tears about her ailing mother struck me like a physical slap. They had stolen my money, and I had even given them cash for their emergency trip. And Terrence? I asked, fearing the answer most of all. Your son lost his job 8 months ago but concealed it from you. He has been systematically depleting your savings and pension. We also have proof that he has already approached 3 different doctors, trying to find one willing to certify you with senile dementia. Each revelation was a new wound, confirming the depth of their long-standing deceit. And my granddaughter, Jasmine? I asked Mr. King, my voice barely a whisper. The betrayal from the others was a calculated stab, but Jasmine's was a tear on the very fabric of my soul. She also has her secrets, Mistress Sterling, the lawyer continued, the formality in his voice reflecting the gravity of the news. She is 3 months pregnant. She has been lying to Terrence and Monique about the identity of the father, who is apparently a married man much older than her, a man who has abandoned her. I closed my eyes, a low, painful moan escaping my lips. My darling girl was caught in a desperate scandal, a fact that only deepened my sorrow for her future. Yet, it did not excuse her part in the conspiracy against me. There is more, I am afraid, Mr. King added softly. Monique has been having a 2-year affair with your next-door neighbor, Robert. Our investigator has photographs and videos of their Tuesday and Thursday afternoon meetings at a cheap motel. Robert, Mistress Charlotte's husband. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. While they were meticulously planning to commit me by painting me as a delusional old woman, their own lives were a tapestry of deceit, adultery, and lies that would make a soap opera blush. I want all of this documented, Mr. King, I told him with renewed icy determination. Every lie, every theft, every moment of betrayal. I want the evidence to be undeniable when the time comes. Of course, Mistress Sterling. But I have a suggestion, he proposed. Instead of confronting them now, what do you think of allowing them to dig their own grave a little deeper? The deeper they go, the stronger our case becomes. I agreed. Patience, I knew, could be a devastating weapon. That afternoon, I decided to do something I had neglected for years: invest in myself. I went to the most luxurious boutiques in the city. I bought 3 elegant, powerful dresses, a deep, confident black, a fierce, vibrant red, and a sophisticated emerald green. I visited the city's most exclusive salon, allowing the stylist, a young man named Jerome, to completely transform my hair. "Ma'am, you have beautiful texture," he noted, running his fingers through my graying curls. "Why have you been covering your strength for so long?" "Because for a long time, I thought my only function was to be the invisible grandmother who existed solely to serve others," I replied honestly. "Those days are over, Mistress Sterling," he declared, his voice firm. "When I am done, you will look like the queen you were always meant to be." When I looked in the mirror, I saw the reflection of a woman I barely recognized, elegant, powerful, and absolutely resolute. That night, dining alone at a corner table in the hotel's opulent restaurant, I decided it was time for the first calculated strike. I called Terrence. "Mom, finally! Where the heck have you been?" His voice was not worried, but outright furious that I had defied his authority. "Taking care of myself, son," I replied calmly. "It has been very revealing. Mom, this has to stop. We are your family. We have a right to know where you are." "A right?" I repeated, letting the word linger. "Since when does my family have a right over my person?" "Since you started acting erratically?" he snapped, the manipulation attempt resurfacing. "You need to talk to a specialist." "A specialist in what, Terrence?" I feigned confusion. "A psychologist, Mom. Someone to help you with these sudden changes." "You are right, son," I agreed, and I could hear his massive sigh of relief on the line. "I do need specialized help. I need a specialist in family fraud, a specialist in elder abuse, and a specialist in psychological manipulation, because that is precisely what you and Monique have been doing to me." The silence on the line was instant and deafening. I felt a surge of cold satisfaction. "Mom, what are you talking about? That is ridiculous." "I think you really need medical help," he stammered, clinging desperately to his false narrative. "I know about the $43,000 in credit cards Monique took out in my name," I countered, my voice low and dangerous. "I know about your plan to have me declared incompetent. I know about the doctors you contacted. I know everything, Terrence." His voice was no longer arrogant, but a low, desperate sound. "Mom, come home. We can talk about this as a family." "No, Benjamin, we are no longer family," I corrected him, using his birth name, a final severance. "A family does not plan the mental destruction of one of its members just to steal their money." I hung up the phone and smiled. The bait had been taken. The days that followed were an exhausting battle, waged through silence and desperate messages. My phone was a weapon, constantly ringing with the changing tactics of my former family. First came the love bombing. Tearful messages from Jasmine claimed she missed me terribly. Broken-voiced texts from Monique begged forgiveness for any misunderstandings. Terrence left lengthy voice messages, alternating between begging me to come home and threatening to call the police to declare me a missing person. When this strategy of false affection failed, they switched to outright intimidation. Terrence's final voice message was sharp and authoritative. "Mom, if you do not come back immediately, we will be forced to take legal measures to protect you from yourself. Your erratic behavior is forcing us to consider legal guardianship." But my lawyer, Mr. King, had prepared me for this exact move. "Let them file the petition for guardianship, Vivian," he advised me coolly. It will be the clearest, most undeniable proof of their true intentions. And we already have 3 independent psychiatrists ready to certify your perfect mental condition. Meanwhile, my private investigator was an invaluable extension of my resolve. His daily reports were like opening Pandora's box, revealing new depths of their desperation and greed. Mistress Sterling, he reported during our Friday meeting, your family has dramatically accelerated their plans since your disappearance. Yesterday, Terrence went to your local bank trying to access your main accounts, claiming you had suffered a psychotic episode, and he needed to temporarily handle your finances. And the bank? I asked. My nerves tight. Fortunately, the manager is professional. He demanded official legal documentation. Terrence insisted so aggressively they had to ask him to leave the premises. They are panicking, Vivian. There was more bad news. Monique is already attempting to liquidate your assets. She posted several pieces of your antique furniture on online marketplaces. She also tried to sell your jewelry collection to a local pawn shop, but they turned her away. She could not prove she had authorization to sell the pieces belonging to an elderly woman. My heart ached for my late husband's gifts. These were not mere objects. They were memories, milestones of a life built on true love. Their callousness was absolute. And Jasmine? I asked, the familiar lump returning to my throat. She is the most active of the 3 outside the home. She is telling her college friends that you suffer from advanced Alzheimer's and that the family desperately needs funds for your medical care. She is using this lie to borrow money from several acquaintances, exploiting your supposed illness. Each revelation confirmed my worst fear. They were not just stealing from me. They were destroying my reputation and using my dignity as a tool for manipulation. Then came the most alarming report yet. Last night, the 3 of them had a clandestine meeting at your house with a man we identified as Paul Hayes, a known document forger with ties to the city's criminal underworld. A forger? My blood ran cold. Apparently, they are planning to create fake medical documents that certify your mental incompetence, backdated to before your disappearance. Paul Hayes specializes in creating fictitious medical histories and forging doctors' signatures. This was a serious escalation, moving from civil fraud to premeditated criminal conspiracy. They were willing to sacrifice their freedom for my money. Mr. King, I instructed him that afternoon, my voice steady. I think it is time to accelerate phase 2. If we wait, they will have their fake documents, and that could complicate our narrative. I am ready to deploy the secret weapon. Mr. King smiled, a satisfied, confident look. I have already reached out to our contacts in the Virgin Islands. The $2.2 million arsenal is ready to be moved into play. You, Vivian, are about to shock them with a power they never imagined. Phase 2 of our plan was deceptively simple: public humiliation and preemptive strike. Instead of confronting them in private, we would force their lies into the stark light of day, witnessed by strangers. My target was a place where image and money were paramount, a high-end real estate office. On Monday morning, I dressed in my new, elegant black suit, the fabric feeling like armor. I wore my best diamond earrings, gifts from my late husband Elijah. I looked not like a frail grandmother, but like a woman who commanded respect and held significant wealth. I went to the city's most prestigious real estate firm, Richardson Associates. I had an appointment to view luxury properties, specifically homes valued at over $1 million. I met the agent, a smooth, dapper man named Rick. "Mistress Sterling, it is a pleasure," Rick said, shaking my hand with deference. "I understand you are interested in acquiring a high-value property that reflects your new stage of life." "That is correct, Rick," I confirmed with confidence. "Something elegant, modern, with good security. I am looking for a statement home." Home. What Rick did not know was that my private investigator had coordinated the perfect intersection. At 11 o'clock, precisely when we would be viewing the second property, Terrence, Monique, and Jasmine were scheduled to arrive at the same office. We were standing in the magnificent foyer of a spectacular downtown condo when I heard the familiar, sharp voices near the main entrance. I excused myself from Rick, a slight smile playing on my lips. When I walked down to the main lobby, there they were, dressed in their most respectable clothes, talking urgently to another agent. I could hear Terrence's voice clearly. "We are interested in selling a property. It is my mother's house, but she is ill, and we have legal power of attorney to handle her affairs." "Power of attorney?" the agent asked, looking doubtful. "Could you provide the official documentation?" "Well, we are still processing the official papers," Monique interjected nervously. "But it is just a matter of days. We simply wanted to get a head start on the appraisal process." "Hello, family," I called out loudly from the stairs. The three of them spun around in unison. The sight of me elegant, composed, and undeniably sane hit them like a physical force. Terrence's face went white. Monique's jaw dropped, and Jasmine physically recoiled. "Mom," Terrence stammered, recovering quickly. "What? What are you doing here? You should be home." "The same thing you are, apparently," I replied calmly, walking towards them. "Though I am buying, not selling." Rick, my agent, hurried over, looking confused. "Do you know these people, Mr. Sterling?" "Unfortunately, yes," I said, looking at the other agent who was now highly uncomfortable. "This is my son, Terrence, and his wife and daughter. They are here trying to sell my house without my authorization, claiming they have a legal power of attorney that does not exist." "There is no conflict," Monique hissed desperately. "She is. She has not been right in the head lately. She is delusional." "Delusional?" I repeated, raising my voice to ensure the entire busy office could hear. "Is that why I am here? Buying $1 million house with my own separate money?" The other agent's face turned to stone. "Excuse me, sir," he said, looking at Terrence. "If there is a legal conflict over the property, we cannot proceed with any appraisal." Terrence tried to sound authoritative. "Mom, this is a misunderstanding. We need to go home and talk about this privately." "No," I said firmly. "There is nothing left to solve at home. I no longer have a home with you in it." I took out my phone and dialed Mr. King. "Doctor, I am at Richardson Associates Realty. My family is here attempting to sell my property without authorization, claiming they have legal power of attorney over my affairs. Could you send your paralegal and a public notary immediately to document this attempt at fraud?" I hung up and looked at them with an unshakable calm. "Now, we wait for my legal team. They are going to explain to everyone here exactly what legal documents you have, how you obtained them, and why you believe you have the right to sell my property." Terrence tried to approach me, his hand extended. "Mom, this is a terrible misunderstanding. We can solve this at home, just us." "No," I stated, pulling back a step. "There is nothing left to solve at home. I do not discuss fraud and betrayal in my living room." Monique began to cry, but her tears were purely for show, driven by panic and public exposure. "Vivian, please. We are family. Everything we did was for your own good." "For my own good?" I asked, my voice rising to cut through her false distress. "Stealing my money with fake credit cards was for my own good? Planning to hire a criminal to forge medical documents to declare me insane was for my own good?" Each accusation landed like an explosive charge in the pristine, quiet lobby of the real estate office. Clients and employees had stopped their work, their faces masks of horror and disgust. My lawyers, who had just arrived, stood back to allow the confrontation to play out. "We do not know what you are talking about," Jasmine cried desperately, fear finally shattering her composure. "You do not?" I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and played the recording I had made that early morning. Terrence's voice, cold and clear, filled the room. "We make her really lose her mind. We switch her medications. We hide her things. In a month, any doctor will certify that she is mentally ill." The silence that followed was suffocating. The only sound was the audio clip of their cruel, calculating words. The faces of the surrounding witnesses shifted from simple curiosity to utter repugnance. "That recording is illegal," Monique shrieked hysterically. "Not in this state," I replied calmly, tucking the phone away. "And definitely not when it is used to prevent the very crime you were planning." At that precise moment, the two lawyers from Mr. King's firm, accompanied by a public notary, stepped forward. Mistress Sterling, one lawyer, a stern-faced woman, addressed me. We are here to officially document that these three individuals have no legal power of attorney, no authority over your property, and no claim to your assets." She turned to Terrence, who looked like a fish gasping for air. "Sir, could you please present the documentation that supports your authority to sell Mistress Sterling's property?" Terrence opened and closed his mouth repeatedly. "We are in the process of—" "In other words, they have no documentation," I declared to the notary. "What they have is a criminal plan to steal everything I own. Please ensure that this entire exchange and my explicit denial of their authority is notarized and filed immediately." The lawyers worked quickly, turning the office into an impromptu crime scene documentation center. Terrence and Monique could only stand there, defeated and publicly exposed. As we walked out, my family followed, yelling and pleading in frantic confusion. "Mom, wait. We can fix this," Terrence cried. Monique's facade completely crumbled. "You are a bitter old woman," she screamed at me. "You used Terrence your whole life, and this is how you repay him." I paused at the cab door, turning to face her one last time. "I do not demand eternal gratitude," I said with lethal calmness. "I simply demand that you do not steal from me, do not betray me, and do not plan to drive me insane for my money." Apparently, that was too much to ask. I got into the cab and pulled the door shut, leaving them shouting on the curb of the busy Atlanta street. The shame was immense, but the dignity I felt was far greater. The first battle was won. That afternoon, Attorney Marcus King summoned me to his office for an urgent meeting. He looked like a man who had just won the lottery and a poker game at the same time. "Mistress Sterling, I have extraordinary news," he said, his smile radiating satisfaction. "Your family, in their desperation after the humiliation at the real estate office, made a critical, career-ending mistake." "What kind of mistake could be worse than what they have already done?" I asked, leaning forward. In a panic, Terrence went directly to the document forger, Paul Hayes, and paid him $50,000 in cash to speed up the creation of your fake medical documents. $50,000. They had used the money stolen from my credit cards, and apparently, Monique had sold her own car to raise that sum. Their greed had utterly consumed their judgment. "But here is the best part, Vivian," Mr. King continued, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Paul Hayes is not just a common criminal. He is an active Federal Bureau of Investigation informant. He has been collaborating with the authorities for months to dismantle a major document fraud ring in the city." I stared at him, unable to speak for a moment. The implications were staggering. "You mean, my family is not only facing state charges for elder abuse and fraud, but they are now under federal investigation for conspiracy to commit medical document fraud?" "Precisely," he confirmed. "The Federal Bureau of Investigation has audio and video recordings of the entire transaction between Terrence and Hayes. They walked right into a federal trap and sealed their own fate with a $50,000 cash payment. Their arrogance had led them to commit a federal crime on behalf of a federal agent." The poetic justice was breathtaking. That night, back in the quiet luxury of my suite, I knew it was time for the final, most devastating stage of my plan. I had the evidence, the legal protection, and now, the weight of the federal government on my side. But I wanted one last, personal confrontation. I opened my laptop and created a new account on a popular live streaming platform. My chosen title was direct and cutting. A Grandma Tells the Truth About Her Family. At 8 o'clock, I started my first live stream. The initial number of viewers was small, but it grew quickly. I looked directly into the camera, my face illuminated by the harsh digital glow, yet feeling utterly serene. "Good evening," I began, my voice clear and steady. "My name is Vivian Sterling. I am 70 years old, and tonight, I am going to tell you a story about a family betrayal that will change the way you view trust and money." I told them everything. The loving adoption of Terrence, the 37 years of sacrifice, the secret note from the doctor, the fraudulent credit cards, and the plans to switch my medication to drive me insane. I played the recordings from my private investigator and explained each dark layer of their conspiracy. In 20 minutes, I had over 1,000 viewers. By the end of the hour, the count had climbed past 3,000. The live comments exploded with outrage. What monsters? She is a warrior. Thank you for sharing your true story. But then, in the middle of my narrative, my phone rang with an incoming call, a recognized number. It was Jasmine. I paused the story, but kept the live stream running. I answered the call through my laptop's microphone, making the conversation public. Grandma, please, turn off that stream, Jasmine pleaded, her voice breaking. You are ruining our lives. The whole school is watching. I am ruining your lives? I repeated for the thousands of viewers. Do not you think you all ruined mine first, darling? Your father planned to destroy my mind to pay for your college. Grandma, everyone is watching us. Jasmine's voice cracked over the live stream. My friends, my teachers, the whole neighborhood. I cannot even leave the house. Oh, and how do you think I would feel? I countered, my voice steady. When your parents successfully had me committed to a facility against my will, declared mentally incompetent, and legally stole all the money your grandfather and I worked for? That was never going to happen, she insisted. They were just exploring options. Exploring options? I shouted, the composure I had maintained for weeks, finally slipping away in a calculated burst of emotion. Jasmine, I raised you since you were a baby. I changed your diapers. I took you to Sunday school, and you stood by, smiling, while your parents planned to destroy my sanity for money. The silence on her end was a heavy confession. The live comments exploded with indignation. Tell her the truth. She is a shame. Do not let her manipulate you, Mistress Sterling. Grandma, Jasmine finally said, her voice small and broken. I need money for college and for other things. She did not know she was subtly confirming the whole story to thousands of strangers. What other things? I pressed. You thought I was your personal automated teller machine? You thought you could collaborate on a plan to drive me insane and then use my stolen money to pay for your education? Explain that to the 5,000 people watching us right now. Another silence, longer this time. Then, almost in a whisper, she asked, How do you know about that? Because I am not the senile old woman you all think I am, I replied, my voice dropping back to a dangerous calm. I know everything, Jasmine. Everything, including the details you have kept hidden from your parents. I heard a small, sharp gasp before the line went dead. She had hung up, but the damage was done. The viewers had heard my granddaughter implicitly admit she knew about the conspiracy. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was Terrence, and he was absolutely livid. Mom, turn off that stream right now, he roared. I am going to sue you for slander and defamation. Hello, Terrence, I said sweetly, ensuring the 5,000 viewers could hear every word. Do you want to explain to the 5,000 people watching us why I am lying? Is it slander to play the audio recordings where you plan to drive me crazy? Is it slander to show the bank statements proving you have been stealing from me for months? Those recordings are illegal, he shouted, clutching at the last straw of his false authority. Not in this state, son, and definitely not when they prevent a crime. But tell me, Terrence, do you want to explain to all these viewers why you paid a document forger $50,000 yesterday afternoon? The silence was agonizingly long. He knew he was caught. How do you know that? He stammered, the fury replaced by terror. Because Paul Hayes is a Federal Bureau of Investigation informant, I announced to the live camera, my voice ringing with finality. Congratulations, Terrence. Now you are not just being investigated for family fraud, but for federal conspiracy. Check the news tomorrow morning, or better yet, wait for the federal agents to knock on your door. The comment section went wild. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Justice for Grandma. She is a spy. Mom, Terrence pleaded, his voice completely broken. Please stop this. We can still fix it. We are family. Are not we, Terrence? I replied with genuine, profound sadness. A family does not betray. A family does not steal. What you are is a criminal organization that happens to share a last name. We need that money, Mom. We have debts, problems, he yelled in desperation, admitting the whole truth. And that is why you decided to destroy my mind? To destroy the last years of my life? I asked. "It was not personal," he said, those three callous words hanging in the air like a death sentence. "You are right, Terrence," I said, looking straight into the camera. "It was not personal to you, and from now on, it will not be personal for me either. I will see you in court." I ended the stream with over 7,000 viewers, feeling that the final, personal score had been settled. The public revelation was a force far greater than any private argument. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing relentlessly. My live stream had gone viral. I had thousands of messages of support, hundreds of interview requests from news outlets, and an overwhelming number of messages from other elders who had endured similar betrayals. "Mistress Sterling, my son did the exact same thing. Thank you for being brave. You have inspired me to take action," one message read. "I am a lawyer, specializing in elder abuse. Your case is textbook. I will help you at no cost," another offered. My courage was not just my own. It had become a beacon for others. But the most impactful call came from Mr. King. "Vivian, I have news that changes everything," he said, his voice charged with excitement. "The Federal Bureau of Investigation arrested Paul Hayes last night. In his interrogation, he confessed everything about the transaction with your family. Hayes not only admitted that Terrence paid him to forge medical documents, he revealed that Terrence and Monique also commissioned him to create a fake will in my name. The document would leave everything to them, and critically, would declare that I was already mentally incompetent when I supposedly signed it. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. The plan was far more elaborate and wicked than I had first conceived. They were going to use the fake medical documents to have me committed, present the forged will, and then wait for me to die in the facility, legally inheriting everything. According to Hayes, Monique first contacted him 4 months ago, Mr. King revealed. This was not a desperate, last-minute decision. It was a calculated, premeditated conspiracy with a timeline. That afternoon, while I was trying to process the magnitude of their evil, I received an unexpected call. It was Jasmine. For the first time, her voice was completely devoid of its usual manipulation. It sounded genuinely broken. "Grandma, can we please talk? Just you and me," she pleaded. "What for, Jasmine?" I asked, maintaining my guard. "For you to lie to me again? For you to try to manipulate me emotionally?" "No, Grandma. To tell you the truth, the whole truth, I cannot take this anymore." There was something raw and terrified in her tone that finally made me hesitate. I agreed, but with strict conditions. "It will be in the hotel lobby, a public place, and I will be recording the entire conversation. Do you agree?" "Whatever you want, just please," she accepted. She arrived at the cafe in the hotel lobby, her eyes red and puffy from crying, her clothes disheveled. She looked like a lost, terrified child. "Grandma," she began before I could speak, "you have to know that I never wanted things to go this far. At first, Mom and Dad just talked about convincing you to move to a luxury home. They said it would be better for you. And you believed them? I thought maybe they were right. The house is big for you alone, and sometimes you seemed lonely." She paused, looking around the elegant lobby. "But that was before I knew about the money. They did not know about my secret millions, but they knew about my local savings, my pension, and the house. Monique had been systematically investigating my finances for months, calling the bank, and even pretending to be me. And when they decided that convincing me was not fast enough," Jasmine continued, tears streaming down her face, "Monique found out you could live another 20 years. She said she could not wait that long. She needed the money now." "Why the urgency for money?" I asked, my voice flat. "To pay my dad's debts. He lost a massive amount on sports betting over the last 2 years. He owes over $100,000 to very dangerous people, a compulsive gambler. Another layer of Terrence's hidden life was laid bare." "And what part did you play in all of this, Jasmine?" I asked, my voice low and steady. I needed to understand the truth of her involvement, beyond the money. I needed money for college and for other things," she whispered, unconsciously placing a hand over her abdomen. "Other things? Like what, Jasmine?" "I am pregnant, Grandma," she confessed, finally looking me in the eye, tears streaming down her face. The father is a married man who abandoned me. I need money to decide what to do next. I was desperate. My heart twisted with pity for the young woman, but the rage at her parents remained cold and hard. And that desperation led you to help plot against the one person who truly loved you? I did not know they wanted to drive you crazy, she protested loudly, attracting glances from the cafe patrons. I just thought they wanted a doctor to say you needed special care, so they could get the house money. What is the difference, Jasmine? I pressed. I do not know. I guess there is not one, she finally admitted, dissolving into quiet sobs. She cried silently for a few minutes, mourning not just her situation, but the death of her own family unit. Grandma, when you left the house, everything fell apart. Mom and Dad do nothing but fight. Mom says it is Dad's fault for gambling. Dad says it is Mom's fault for being too ambitious. And I am caught in the middle, pregnant and terrified. And now, what do you want from me? I want you to forgive me. And I want you to know that if you testify against Mom and Dad, I am going to tell the whole truth, everything I saw, everything I heard. She offered the information, a fragile peace offering. I remained silent, testing the sincerity of her sudden change of heart. Why would you turn on your parents now, Jasmine? Because last night, Dad told me that if everything goes wrong, they are going to say that I was the one who came up with the idea to steal your jewels, she revealed, the words shaking with a new kind of fear. They are going to say that I manipulated them into doing it because I needed money for drugs. Drugs? I exclaimed. I do not do drugs, Grandma. But Dad says it is more credible to blame the reckless teenager than to admit they planned everything together. They are going to use me as the scapegoat. The betrayal was complete. Not only had Terrence and Monique planned my destruction, but they were now willing to sacrifice their own daughter to save their own skin. Do you have proof of what you are telling me? I asked, already knowing the answer. Jasmine took out her phone. I have recordings of all their fights since you left. I have text messages where they plan to blame me. I have videos of Mom counting the money she got from selling some of your things. Why did you record all of that? Because a week ago, I finally realized that when all of this is over, they are going to abandon me too. I am pregnant, and I have no money. They need someone to take the fall, and that scapegoat is going to be me. I looked at her, seeing a glimmer of my own lost self, the desperate woman who had been completely dependent on false love. I offered my hand across the small table. Jasmine, if you do this, if you help me get justice, I will not only help you finish high school and make the right decisions for your baby, I promised. I will teach you how to be a strong woman, a woman who is not defined by the men in her life. She grabbed my hand, squeezing it tightly. Deal, Grandma. Deal, my girl, I confirmed. But now you are my ally, and allies protect each other. Are you ready for that responsibility? More ready than I have ever been for anything in my life. The 3 weeks leading up to the trial were a flurry of preparation. Mr. King's firm had amassed a mountain of evidence: the secret recordings, the private investigators' logs, the unauthorized credit card statements, and now Jasmine's testimony and additional proof. The case was so ironclad that even the expensive lawyer, Terrence and Monique, hired, advised them to plead guilty. But they refused. Terrence and Monique were convinced they could still manipulate the system. They believed the jury would look at them, the respectable, struggling couple, and see a loving family caring for a confused old woman. They wanted a public trial to shame me into submission. The day the trial began, I arrived at the courthouse in my elegant emerald green suit, the color of confidence and wealth. I was accompanied by Jasmine, who looked pale but resolute. My story had gone national, and a crowd of reporters and supportive elders lined the courthouse steps. "Are you nervous, Grandma?" she asked, holding my arm as we walked. "No, my girl," I replied, feeling a profound sense of peace. I am at peace. The truth is a relentless force, and today it will finally find its way out. The courtroom was packed. Journalists scrambled for space, and dozens of African American elders had come to stand in solidarity with me. When I saw Terrence and Monique at the defense table, I felt a detached pity. The stress of knowing they were facing years in prison had hollowed them out. Terrence's eyes were frantic, and Monique looked thin and defeated. The prosecutor began masterfully, presenting the full narrative of their conspiracy. He played the audio recordings, showed bank statements proving the credit card fraud, detailed the $50,000 payment to the federal informant, and revealed the plan to create a fraudulent will. But the most devastating moment came when Jasmine took the stand as a witness for the prosecution. She was calm, composed, and spoke with unwavering clarity. "Mistress Sterling," the prosecutor asked her, "can you tell the court what you heard your parents discuss regarding your grandmother's health and future?" With a steady voice, Jasmine narrated every conversation. The plan to switch my medication, the cold calculation of how much money my death would yield, and how they had decided to frame her if their plans went wrong. When she finished, the room was utterly silent. I saw several members of the jury wiping tears from their eyes. The defense attorney, a slick, weary man, tried desperately to discredit her. "Mistress Sterling, is not it true that you are pregnant and desperate for money?" he asked aggressively. "Yes, I am pregnant," Jasmine replied with dignity. "And yes, I need help, but I am not lying to get it. I am telling the truth because it is the right thing to do. There is a difference between seeking support and participating in a criminal conspiracy." "And is not it convenient that your grandmother suddenly promised you financial support in exchange for your testimony?" he sneered. "My grandmother promised me her loyalty and her love," Jasmine corrected him firmly. "She promised to teach me how to be a woman of dignity. That, sir, is more valuable than any amount of money." When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with the composure of a queen ascending her throne. I felt the weight of all the eyes in the courtroom on me, but their scrutiny no longer held any power. I was simply here to deliver the truth. "Mistress Sterling," the prosecutor asked, his voice gentle, "can you tell us how you felt when you first discovered your family's plans to steal your life and your legacy?" "I felt that I had lived a lie for 45 years, I replied, looking straight ahead. "They did not just betray me. They made me question every moment of love I thought I had shared with them. They made me wonder if I was ever anything more than an obstacle between them and my money." "And how do you feel now?" "Now I feel free," I declared, allowing my gaze to finally settle on Terrence, who visibly flinched. "Free from the lies, free from the manipulation, and free from the obligation to love people who never truly loved me." The defense attorney, smelling weakness, seized the opportunity to portray me as a vengeful, overly wealthy woman who was exaggerating the situation to punish her loving family. "Mistress Sterling," he asked sharply, "is not it true that you possess millions of dollars that you deliberately concealed from your own adopted son for over a decade?" "It is true that I have financial resources they were unaware of," I admitted, my voice strong. "But those resources do not, in any universe, justify conspiring to drive me insane, stealing my identity, or hiring a criminal to forge federal documents. Do not you believe your family, who cared for you after your husband's death, deserved to know about that money?" he pressed, trying to appeal to the jury's sense of fairness. "Deserved?" I repeated, letting the word ring with contempt. "Why? For planning my forced commitment? For systematically stealing from me for months? For betraying me in the cruelest way possible?" The money was hidden precisely to test if their love was real, and they failed that test spectacularly. The defense attorney continued to chip away, but his questions merely allowed me to reiterate the specific acts of cruelty and theft. He was fighting a war with a damp napkin against my tank of solid evidence. After 5 long days, the case concluded. The jury left the courtroom to deliberate. Monique was pale, her head bowed. Terrence stared at the table, his fingers nervously drumming a silent rhythm. I felt a sudden, profound exhaustion. What if the jury saw Terrence and Monique as simply misguided, desperate parents? What if they believed my wealth made me the villain? I looked at Jasmine, who squeezed my hand reassuringly. I had fought, but the fear that legal justice might fail me lingered. 2 agonizing hours later, the jury returned. The room went silent, so quiet I could hear my own heart pounding in my ears. The foreman, a kind, middle-aged African-American woman, stood to deliver the verdict. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse. How do you find the defendant? Terence Caldwell. Guilty, she said, her voice firm. The repeated word, guilty, echoed through the silence of the courtroom. It was the sound of a carefully built edifice, of lies collapsing, brick by heavy brick. Terence slumped, his last flicker of arrogance extinguished. The foreman continued. Monique was also found guilty on all counts, including identity theft, mortgage fraud, and conspiracy. Justice, swift and complete, had arrived, delivered by 12 people who refused to accept the narrative of the frail, delusional grandmother. Weeks later, the sentencing hearing was held. The judge, a formidable woman, with deep wisdom etched into her face, did not mince words. She spoke of the profound evil of elder abuse and the violation of the sacred trust of a mother's love. The court finds the betrayal committed here to be among the most calculated and cruel forms of financial abuse, the judge declared, her voice resonating through the chamber. The plan to destroy Mistress Sterling's mind, her sanity, and her reputation, just to steal her legacy, warrants severe punishment. Terence was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for conspiracy, fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. Monique received 10 years for the same charges, with additional penalties for her role in identity theft and mortgage fraud. When the sentences were read, Monique broke down completely, sobbing hysterically, and having to be escorted out. Terence simply stared ahead, his expression empty, the shock having finally overwhelmed him. As Jasmine and I left the courthouse, surrounded by our legal team, a reporter managed to push through the crowd. Mistress Sterling, do you feel that justice was served today? I feel that legal justice was served, I replied, standing tall and meeting the camera lens. But the real justice was discovering my own strength. The real justice was finding out who I truly was, before it was too late to enjoy the rest of my life. In the months that followed, I took full control of my life and my fortune. Mr. King and his team moved the $2.2 million and the overseas properties into a secure, private trust. I sold the old house in the suburbs, the scene of my long deception, and purchased a beautiful, light-filled modern home on the outskirts of Atlanta. It was smaller than the old place, but it felt clean, safe, and truly mine. It had a sunny garden, where Jasmine and I spent our afternoons, planting flowers that smelled of hope and new beginnings. Jasmine completed her high school courses with honors. She had chosen to keep her baby, a decision I supported fully, knowing she would be an excellent mother. Inspired by Mr. King, she enrolled in a pre-law program specializing in elder protection and financial advocacy. "Grandma," she said one afternoon, tending to a rose bush, "do you ever regret adopting Dad?" "I do not regret adopting him, my love," I replied, feeling the cool soil beneath my fingers. "I only regret not having understood sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the cost of self-destruction. I gave him everything, and in return, he gave me the truth about myself. I am a survivor." What did I learn from all of this? I learned that real family is not defined by blood or by shared history. It is defined by mutual respect, genuine loyalty, and unconditional love. I learned that it is always better to stand alone with dignity than to be accompanied by betrayal. Most importantly, I learned that it is never too late to start over. Now, at 71 years old, I am living the fullest life I have ever had. I travel. I have rejoined my book club and found new friends in the local church community. And above all, I have a genuine, deep connection with my granddaughter Jasmine, who has become the daughter of my heart. She looks at me not with the cold calculation of an inheritor, but with the sincere respect of an ally. She is thriving in her studies and preparing for motherhood. She constantly reminds me that my courage saved not only my life, but hers as well. My life is no longer about sacrifice. It is about purpose. I have created a foundation to raise awareness about elder financial abuse. I use the wisdom gained from my own pain to counsel other seniors who are facing similar betrayals. Terence and Monique have tried to contact me from prison several times. Their letters, filled with weak apologies and pleas for forgiveness, go directly into the trash, unopened. Some doors, once closed, should never be opened again. Every night before I go to sleep, I am thankful for the small note that saved my life. I am thankful for Dr. Ellington, who had the courage to warn me, and for Mr. King, who gave me the weapon to fight. But most of all, I am thankful for the strength I did not know I possessed. I finally learned to love and value myself as much as I loved everyone else my whole life. And that, my dears, is the most valuable lesson of all. The rebirth of Vivian Sterling is complete. Did my story resonate with you? Which part of this family drama touched your heart the most, and what would you have done in my shoes? I would be honored to read your thoughts and your own experiences in the comments below. If you believe in the power of faith, dignity, and getting justice, please consider sharing this story with someone who may need to hear it. And please subscribe to this channel for more life stories, just like this one. Thank you so much for listening. I am looking forward to reading your comments.